This is the regular meeting of the Ojai Planning Commission for Wednesday, May 21st, 2014. Before we start, we have a new planning commissioner to welcome, and we need to have him sworn in. So, Rhonda?
Okay, will you please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, McAdam Lajowski, do solemnly affirm that I will support
I solemnly affirm that I will support
and defend the Constitution of the United States
and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Merck, I just would
Yes,
like
ma'am.
to mention that you might see a new person back here. Carol Yates has left the city, and we have a new person. His name is Nick. So if you have any
All right.
problems with the sound system,
Okay,
address it.
thank you.
It's a little hot.
Yeah. So Nick, the the mics are a little hot, as they said. All right. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission on items appearing on the agenda are requested to complete a speaker's card and file it with the secretary prior to the start of the meeting. Cards are available in the lobby. Speakers should state their name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Comments must be directed to the commission, not the audience. And here's another speaker's card. Come here, if you give it to Sherry right there. While Planning Commission is in session, all in attendance are expected to maintain order and decorum and to obey the orders of the chair. Could we have roll call, please?
Commissioners Jagiello, Nicklin, Zabella, Commissioner Lajowski.
Here.
Vice Chair Foster.
Here.
Chair Merck.
Here.
Commissioner Nolan.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Foster, could you leave us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First, thank you, Jane. First item on our agenda is the public communications. Public communications is time set aside during the Planning Commission meeting for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the Commission and will generally be referred to staff and or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action can be taken at this meeting. I have a card here from Scott Eicher.
Good evening, Commissioners. Welcome, McAdam. Hope you have a good time up there. I'm Scott Eicher. I'm the CEO of the Ojai Valley Chamber of Commerce. Earlier this week, an email came in to my inbox, and there was an offer there that had been made to a number of other chambers up and down the state, chambers and visitors bureaus. And I did accept the offer. There were some contingencies upon it, but nonetheless, I felt it was a valuable offer to accept, and it was an offer for a hydraulic event. And it gave me a choice of days and degrees. And by the time I got the email, the highest degree was no longer available, so I took what was available, and that was the lowest one, and it was for a sprinkler, which I think we've just had most of the part of the day here in town. And I chose today rather than tomorrow because I didn't want it to interfere with the Chamber's mixer at Regalo Extra Virgin Olive Oil on Carn Road. And I just wanted to let you know that regardless of what some rabble-rousers out there may say, it was not rain, it was merely a sprinkle. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I enjoyed it on the way over here. Mr. Ulrich, Did you want to speak under the public comments?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Thank you. William Ulrich, 487 Gridley Road. And none of this, what I'm about to say is personal, but it does refer to and reflect on the inconsistency in the processing of applications that come before the city of Ojai. Specifically, why was the Emerald Iguana owners, who are here tonight, Mr. and Mrs. Whitman, their letter addressed to the Community Development Department posted in the Planning Commission packet and website, and posted on the website, and not the neighbor's petition requesting a CUP review? That was J. Spiller et al., given the same consideration. This is an egregious manifestation of favoritism and special treatment for a former planning commissioner and Ojai business owner, current Ojai business owner. Just pointing that out. Now, relative to BP 1474, a director's exemption by the Community Development Director was issued on 3/12/14 for a remodel permit without Planning Commission input or review. This permit referenced CUP 99-07, which required, as part of the conditions of approval, all check-in and registration shall occur off-site at the Blue Iguana Inn. So things have happened. There hasn't been review or oversight by this body, and I'm asking the question why. Now, further, work executed at the address 108-110 Pauline, Emerald Iguana, included a major facade renovation and the installation of a sign reading office and a reception desk. All of these items were specifically, as I have, per my review, excluded by CUP 99-07. Further, BP 14-74 is completed by Sherry Harbrook as hotel, as indicated at the top of the application as the use of the building. The CUP, as I understand it, requires and identifies the use as an extended stay cottages, which is the owner's self-description on the application in 1999. Why is there a discrepancy in this matter? Why is there inconsistency? And why is there misinformation? And why is it further supported by city staff without input, review, or processing by the Planning Commission? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ulrich. We'll be discussing the Emerald Iguana in more detail in item 4, if you can wait until then. Anyone else wishing to speak on something not on the agenda? All right, we'll go to the disclosure of site visits and ex parte contacts, and I think I'll start on my left with this, with Commissioner Nolan. What's that? Oh, you're right. The consent calendar. It's approved by a roll call vote on one motion. Should any member of the commission wish to discuss or disapprove an item, it must be removed from the consent calendar and considered as a separate item. The one item we have is minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, April 16th. Can I have a motion on this?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes.
All right,
I'll second that.
thank you. Sherry, could we have a roll call, please?
Lajowski?
Abstain.
And Foster?
Yes.
Merck?
Yes.
Nolan?
Yes.
Thank you. Now we can move on to disclosure of site visits and ex parte contacts. So, Commissioner Nolan,
I visited both sites.
thank you. Commissioner Foster?
I too am familiar with both sides.
All right, Commissioner Wojciechowski.
I did visit the sites. I visited the Iguana on Saturday evening at 8 p.m. and the other sites subsequently.
Thank you. I've visited both sites, and over the past few years, I've had a number of conversations with Jane Spiller and some of the other neighbors in that area, so I'm pretty familiar with the project. Next, we'll move on to the Municipal Advisory Planning Commission Liaison Report for the MAC meeting on May 19th. I don't see anybody here from the MAC meeting. I attended that meeting, as did Mr. Wyrick, who's in the audience there. It was an interesting meeting in that, first of all, they didn't have a quorum. They only had the chairman and one other commissioner showed up. So they weren't able to actually conduct any business, but they did get a report from the, I guess it's the Ojai Valley Green Coalition, Deborah Pendry and Gail Topping and George Berg, regarding a dark sky ordinance, which we have in the city of Ojai, but they want to have it countywide. So they're working on the getting it adopted countywide. Then They mentioned their new sidewalks in Miners Oaks, which everyone's very excited about, and they have an $815,000 grant available for stormwater cleanup, which is going to be used on the, if I understand this correctly, the Ojai Land Conservancy property right next to Nordhoff High School. I'm not sure I got that correct. Most of the meeting was taken up with a discussion of the county's draft wireless communications facilities ordinance, which was very reminiscent of our discussion about cell phone tower on Grand Avenue. I think we were there until about 9 o'clock, Bill. Yes, there were a lot of concerns expressed by, this is a county-wide thing, it's not just the city of Ojai. And they had people from as far away as Newbury Park come to talk about their concerns about cell phone towers. So it was an interesting meeting, but there was actually no business transacted because they didn't have a quorum. All right, and our next meeting, the next MAC meeting is in June, but they were saying that they may go to a quarterly meeting session because they have, they don't have enough business to really meet monthly, so it may be a while before the next meeting. All right, we're going to move on to the public hearing items. And the first item is number 2, a sign permit S13-35 for modification to the existing comprehensive sign program S8845 for an existing building at 206 North Signal Street. And can we hear from staff on this, please?
Yes, good evening, Chair Merck and members of the Planning Commission. This item was originally scheduled and continued to tonight's meeting. This is a request from the property owners at 206 Signal for a comprehensive sign program or a modification to an existing comprehensive sign program. The subject property is just under an acre parcel, and it's comprised of 3 Spanish-style 2-story buildings with multiple tenants in each. There's a potential for 20 tenant spaces in total of the 3 buildings. The application was originally submitted in November of 2013, and staff reviewed the application and requested some additional items from the applicant. The applicant has resubmitted an application on May 13th, 2014 with a revised proposed sign program. The applicant is proposing to modify the existing sign program by removing the 36 square foot El Paseo wall sign, which is along Signal Street, and add a second monument sign along Aliso Street. In addition, the sign program would provide for signage for the potential of 20 tenants at the site to include wall signs, projecting signs, and tenant identification on the 2 monument signs. The city's zoning ordinance, Article 16, covers the required sign standards for businesses. And multi-tenant developments of 3 or more separate tenants that share either the same parcel or structure, use common access and parking, may apply for a comprehensive sign program, and the Planning Commission may approve a comprehensive sign program to modify the development standards for signs for an eligible project or event. The applicant is proposing to unify and bring cohesiveness to the multi-tenant buildings on the subject property, and a set of guidelines will be put in place to inform each tenant of the allowed size, color, materials, and placement for their signs. A condition of the comprehensive sign program is to notify each of the tenants, both existing and future, of these sign requirements, and this will help to unify the building signage by requiring them to come in for sign permits when necessary. On page 4 of staff's report, it gives, there's a table of what the City of Ojai's Municipal Code, Article 16, allows for in terms of signage. The next column over shows what the proposed comprehensive sign program is, and the last column shows whether it conforms with the city's sign code or whether it would require approval of the sign program to modify those standards. In addition to the staff report, you also have the proposed comprehensive sign program that shows a sign schedule. It's a little confusing, so I tried to summarize it in the table in the staff report. But the schedule in the sign program shows the building numbers. Like I said, there's 3 buildings on site. So those are listed, building 1, 2, or 3. Then it shows the suite numbers and the signs, whether they're existing or could, have future signs there for each of the tenant spaces. So to kind of make it a little easier to read, I've made this table showing what's allowed by code, what they're proposing in terms of number of signs, area of signs, and whether they conform. So if I could just take you through that table. Our sign code allows a maximum of 2 signs per business. This comprehensive sign program is proposing 3 signs per tenant, basically. That would be identification on one of the monument signs, either on Aliso or Signal, a projecting sign, and a wall sign. And that would be allowed with approval by the Planning Commission. Moving down to the monument signs. Currently, the site has 1 monument sign along Signal. Our code allows for 1 monument sign, and the applicant is requesting to add a second monument sign along Aliso. And that would be allowed with the approval of Planning Commission, approval of the sign program. The applicant's requesting that second monument sign because there are 2 parking entrances, 2 driveways to this project site, and some people that are coming down Aliso have a difficulty finding, which businesses are on that site, as opposed to those coming down Signal and entering from that location. The area of the code allows the area of the monument sign to be 40 square feet or 10% of the minimum of the main building face area. The proposed comprehensive sign program showing A1 monument at 27 square feet and monument A2 at 18 square feet. And those monuments are both shown in the sign program. So you have on page 6, the existing monument sign A1, that's the 27 square foot sign, monument sign. Then the new monument sign would be 18 square feet, so it would be smaller. Placement of the monument sign, the code allows for it along the frontage, adjoining a public street, and shall not obstruct traffic safety. The monument sign along Signal meets that requirement, and the new monument sign along Aliso Street has been proposed at a 3-foot height maximum because it's within visibility site area. It's close to the driveway, and we require 3-foot max in those areas. It meets the distance to another monument sign because it's greater than 50 feet away. I just went over the height of the monument sign. The existing one is above that 3 feet, but it's outside of that visibility area. The new monument sign would be within the visibility area, so its maximum is 3 feet. The lettering, currently the lettering is vinyl on the existing monument sign, but the proposed monument sign along Lisa would be routed letters. Wall signs, we've calculated that for the city's requirement of 2 per business, there would be 20 tenant spaces, and they're requesting to have 20 wall signs. I'm sorry, they're requesting to have 26 wall signs. So that would be part of what the Planning Commission would be looking at in terms of the comprehensive sign program. The area of the wall signs requirement is for 40 square feet. In the proposed sign program, they're within those sign areas for wall signs. On the projecting signs, the area is not to exceed 10 square feet, which is allowed by code. They're proposing well under that 10 square foot sign area. The distance from the ground, we require that not less than 8 feet when over a public right-of-way. They're proposing 6.6, but I think the applicant that's here is going to go over that because their request is that these projecting signs are not over a public right-of-way, so they're requesting it to be 6.6 feet. They meet the distance from the building face, and their lettering, they're proposing vinyl lettering instead of the raised or routed lettering. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the proposed sign program, and I know the applicant's here to answer any questions as well. So,
Thank you. Any commissioners have any questions for staff? So Heather, when I'm looking at this, this table that you have here, it looks like this area of the sign is greater than what we've allowed, and the number of signs is greater, and so on. Does staff see any problem with these exceeding the
no, staff
numbers that we have?
staff has reviewed what they're proposing. We did comment on the monument sign along Aliso Street. Originally, we had requested that they, when they're providing the allowance for each tenant to have tenant ID on the monument signs, that each tenant only has one ID on one or the other monument sign. And I think I've conditioned that in the resolution so that they don't have an overage of signage. They're not on both monument signs, plus a wall sign, plus a projecting sign.
So then I don't see what the point is in having two monument signs. Isn't the idea that you'd have the same thing on both sides?
Well, I think that the applicant expressed an issue with people being able to find the business that they're going to and in the building that they're going to. And the way the site is laid out, they've got building 2, which is closest to Aliso, and buildings 1 and 3 closest to Signal. So the idea was those entering off of Signal would see that monument sign and relate it to those 2 buildings that are closest to it. And those tenants would be on that monument sign. And then those coming in from Aliso Street would be looking for tenant spaces that are listed on that monument sign and located within building 2. I know that they currently have some directional signs on site, but they're small, and there's some confusion for traffic to the site, figuring out where their business is and which building it's in. So we thought that would help to direct traffic to each of those buildings.
Okay. Other commissioners have questions?
I have a question. So basically the wall sign, is that a directional sign where all the tenants are listed in one place?
No, the wall sign would be above each tenant space.
In addition to a hanging sign above
Yes.
each tenant?
Projecting sign, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I guess I should mention, if I didn't already mention, that currently some of the tenant spaces have more than that, but the tenants that are in there and have sign permits for those signs would be grandfathered in unless they came in to request a change in their sign or get a new sign permit. Then they would have to follow the new comprehensive sign program.
Is there a reason that they're requiring or requesting the hanging sign and the wall sign?
I think I'll let the applicant
Okay, I'll
answer
ask
that.
at that portion.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, so it states that the mounted sign lettering is going to be routed. And you have, it states on the projecting sign, vinyl letters. And what about the wall sign? I didn't see, is that routed then, or vinyl, or? It's routed? I'm
Yeah.
getting a nod from Mr. Warwick, okay. So, concerning the vinyl lettering, is that, what does our ordinance say about vinyl lettering?
Well, it says that it should be raised or routed.
Raised or routed, so they're asking for an exception with the vinyl lettering?
Yes.
It's part of this? Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? No. So, Mr. Warwick, can we hear from you?
My daughter's accompanying me because I'm hard of hearing, so she can help me understand questions if they come up. Good evening, Planning Commission and staff. My name is Richard Wyrick. I'm at 12078 Linda Flora in Ojai. I'm the president of the Signal LLC, which is the owner of the building at Liso and Signal. It has one address on Signal. There's no address on Aliso. That's an important point. The zoning is VMU, and it has 3 entrances to the courtyard. There's 2 parking lots, and there's 20 offices and retail establishments there, which is about double from what it was when I bought the property. It's a unique to Ojai because it's a courtyard style with retail offices with a turnover of about 2 to 3 tenant changes every year. And so the keeping up with the signs is a job. The problem is effective, up-to-date signs for the identification of the tenants, for the benefits of visitors and customers. An example would be the Ojai Valley
Chamber of Commerce.
Pardon?
The Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce, which is around the back on Aliso, and we have people coming in the front to entrance and wondering where the chamber is every day, and it's bothering other tenants. So I need to have a sign program that's very responsive and get the signs up right away. And I want to thank the city staff for their report and the corrections to the submitted sign program. They did a very good job, and we agree with the staff report of May 13th, 2014, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Ward?
Yes, I do have a question. I had asked staff earlier, but it seems more appropriate to ask the applicant. What is the need for having the projected sign and a wall sign per each unit or for each tenant?
Well, because the projecting signs you can see from the sidewalk down a ways and find the spot, whereas a wall sign is flat against the wall, and it serves for purposes on the streets, but it really helps to have those projecting signs, and they're vinyl primarily to be able to change them out very quickly and not have to wait for the routing to be done.
And the projecting signs are actually right over the individual unit in addition to the wall sign being right directly
That's
over the
correct. And there's a picture in the
Right.
in the book about the
Okay.
projecting sign. They look pretty large in the picture, but they're very small.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So I had a question. I was asking staff about this earlier. So the 2 monument signs, there's one on Signal Street and one on Aliso Street.
There's none on Aliso at this time.
But you'd like to put one there?
I would like to add a smaller one on
Yeah.
Aliso. That's right.
So would they have the same list of tenants on each sign? It sounded like staff said they're going to be different lists.
Tenants
So-
would only be allowed one sign, one blade or one board on a monument sign, not 2.
Okay. I'm just worried people are going to get confused if they go in the wrong entrance and they go, oh, it's not here because it's on the other sign, or I don't know.
I didn't catch that.
So what it is that the building 2 we don't have an Aliso sign.
Right.
And that would be building 2. So those are different tenants than the ones that you would normally come in on Signal Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Chamber of Commerce, one example, it would be on the Aliso sign.
So we're assuming that people are going to come in the correct entrance.
Yeah, and there's 2.
You know-
Hopefully, yeah.
There's 2 parking lots, so it's very easy to make that mistake.
Yeah, okay.
That are connected, but they're distinct
Yeah.
parking lots.
I mean, as long as you're happy with it, I'm happy with it, but I just want to make sure that,
Yeah. I just want to get better identification for all the tenants.
yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Any other questions?
Questions for?
Going back to this vinyl lettering, did I hear you say that you like the use of the vinyl lettering because of the changeover? It's easier to facilitate a
Just
sign
for-
change?
Yes,
That's
because,
for the wall, correct?
no, not for the walls. The walls remain with the routed type. I'm just talking about the vinyl for
Oh, the projecting
for the
signs.
door blades, I call them, the small door blades
Okay.
over the door. And I'd like to also use them on the monument sign.
Okay.
But, that can be changed.
So, jog my memory, are there any projecting signs on either on the Liesel Street frontage or Signal Street that are projecting off from the wall?
Yes.
There are wall signs or projecting signs there with vinyl letters.
Yes. There's There's a sign at David Magny's office. It's a
Okay.
projecting wall.
And it's vinyl lettering, it's not raised.
It's vinyl letters,
Yeah.
right. And there's the sign at the decorator's office, Bobby Dufour, is non-conforming, and as soon as she moves, I'm going to take it down. It's too big.
Okay. But this is all on the street side, these
On the
projecting
street side of
signs.
Aliso, that's right, not on the courtyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Lujewski.
What are the cost differences between the vinyl and the routed signs?
I can't answer that. The vinyl sign costs $20. I'm not sure what the routing ones cost.
I understand, the ease of switching out the vinyl, but if you have to change the vinyl sign, if a tenant moves out, don't you also have to change the wall sign? Or does the tenant take care of that and you're just taking care of the vinyl?
My experience has been that some of the tenants come in with their own wall sign, which are already routed and been used elsewhere in Ojai. And the other tenants come in and don't bother to put up a wall sign. They don't want to spend the money. And I make those tenant signs, the door signs up myself, and take the old door signs and wipe off the vinyl and put a new vinyl overlay on it, so I can take care of it very quickly.
So it sounds like, if I'm understanding this correctly, everyone would have a projecting sign, but the wall sign is if they want it or not, or optional?
The wall signs, they have to provide those. I don't provide the wall signs. And if they choose not to provide a wall sign, why, they don't get it,
Commissioner
But
Nolan, just to clarify, the sign program is asking that those projecting signs, which the applicant will be providing each of his tenants, are part of the sign program. So when you approve the sign program, you're approving these projecting signs because they're all going to be the same size, same look. He's going to be changing them out. The wall signs, each of these tenants will have to come to the
Their
city
own. Okay, that's what I
for a
thought.
sign permit. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Thank you.
This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who wants to speak on this? Okay, come on up, Scott. Yeah, you should know about this.
Yeah,
You're
I
the
do know
Chamber of
that. As a
Commerce.
matter of fact, my office at the Chamber is there.
Yeah.
And it is true that we do have a number of people who, once they find our office, say that it's extremely difficult to find, even though they are there. And we will often get calls from their cell phones saying, "I'm here, but where are you?" And generally, it requires us to walk out of the office, find those people, and then lead them back. It would make it a lot easier to have that second monument sign on Aliso, in a large part because the monument sign on Signal has to incorporate so many signs that some of them are so small you can't read the names, or they are so low and so close to the ground that it only takes a short sprinkler event to encourage flowers to grow up over the top of the signs and make them illegible. So as far as I'm concerned, in the Visitors Bureau and probably even Caitlin Matthews, it would make it a lot easier for us to say just turn right on Aliso and look for our sign there. We do say that now, come up Signal, turn right on Aliso, turn right immediately into the parking lot, and our brown awning faces the parking lot. But even saying that, they still call and say, "I'm here at 206 and where are you?" So I think it would just make things a lot easier for the people on Signal and to have two monument signs so that they are both legible.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak on this item? Could we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Any discussion or a motion? I'm open to either.
Well, I was going to say, I am in favor of the second monument sign. I think it makes sense. I've been over to that building complex numerous times, and you usually look around, and it takes a little while to get oriented. So I think it makes a lot of sense based on the entrances and then the additional parking. Maybe a little more discussion about the vinyl letters. I know that's something we have, it's not in our sign program. So I have a little concern about that, and I'm just curious if
I'm a little
my other
concerned about that
commissioners-
myself, just in terms of setting
Yeah.
a precedent, not so much for this particular building,
Exactly.
but in general,
Right.
if we're all of a sudden going to have people coming in saying, well, they don't have to route their signs, why should I have to route my sign?
Right.
Sort of thing. So that's my biggest concern.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I got a question. Now, are we talking the letters are going to be raised or they're going to be routed out?
The letters on the monument sign, as I understand it, Steph, you could maybe clarify this, but the letters on the monument sign are vinyl, which are just sort of pasted on the surface. And then the hanging signs for each unit will be a routed sign, which is what we normally require everywhere in town. No? We don't?
Monument sign is routed, right?
No?
Not vinyl.
Whatever it is,
That's
we've
what it
got it all wrong.
says.
What-
It says
They're
routed on
They're
our,
proposing that.
Right, that's for the new one, but the existing one, they're not changing the existing one, are they?
No.
The existing one is vinyl.
It says raised or routed
right.
under monument.
The new
So-
one.
So we're
So
saying
the new one will
monument-
be routed.
The signboards, yes.
Well, the monument sign will be routed or not? The new,
The new proposed sign along Elisa will be routed.
okay, good.
And then the signs on the building are at the discretion of the building, whoever the tenants are, they'll have to get a permit.
Right.
Is that
and-
correct?
Right, and they'd have to meet the sign program.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are hanging, that's what we're talking about here, about vinyl, is what the applicant wants is vinyl.
Correct.
So, I think, I don't have any problem with the second monument sign. I can see clearly that where the need exists to do that, so that's a no-brainer for me. I have the concern with the vinyl because we have precedents throughout this community of raised lettering. I know it's on my office and everybody else I know that has some rents or leases downtown area. And especially that it's on the street side of Signal there. It's very highly exposed. I like to maintain the quality, if you will, I like to see the quality of the raised or routed either way that goes into that type of sign versus a vinyl sign. And I think John brings up a good point about precedence. If we start allowing vinyl signs, we have to be very careful about that. And so I believe I like to see it stay as raised or routed as it is now.
And then the other concern is, now each tenant is going to be having 3 signs rather than 2, which is in our sign ordinance. So I think, I guess that's the other part of our discussion. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's one monument sign plus a hanging sign plus a wall sign.
Well, it's a wall sign.
Reach. Mr. Warwick?
Yeah.
You wanna- Nope.
I'd like to correct one thing, and those door blades are wooden signs with vinyl letters on each side, and but they're wooden signs. They're not all vinyl. I sense that maybe you're thinking they're all vinyl signs, and they're not. Okay.
So the lettering itself is vinyl on a solid slab
Solid
of wood, but it's not raised or routed, correct?
No,
And those are the
it's
projecting
It's a
signs.
flat wood board with scalloped edges, and with the letters themselves are
Mhm.
cut out vinyl. Yeah.
And those get changed fairly frequently, it sounds like.
Pardon?
Those get changed fairly frequently with the tenants going in and out. You have to,
Did they get changed fairly
Yeah,
frequently?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why I did it. They're changed often, and 2 or 3 times a year, as I stated earlier, at least. Yeah.
thank you. All right. Well, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to continue the discussion
Continue discussing.
a little bit.
That's great with me.
We've had other applicants come in, and it seems like there's always some concern with the signage. Our people want more than they're supposed to have. And once again, I don't want to see us setting a precedent, not only with the vinyl, but even possibly with now having 3 signs per tenant rather than 2. And I'm not sure how my other fellow commissioners feel about that.
Well, don't they already have, in essence, 3, some people already have 3 signs? Is that correct? It's
Yeah.
just inconsistent?
It's inconsistent. They do have a sign program right now. It hasn't necessarily been followed over the years. Some tenants have moved in, like the applicant said, with their signs from some other location and assumed that because they were allowed to have the sign somewhere else, they'll just move it to this location and put it up. So there are many tenants out there that don't even have a sign permit. So the sign program wasn't being followed. So, part of the reasoning behind this sign program was to clean it up, to put these standards in place, and for any future tenants that are coming to the site would have to follow this sign program, and any existing tenants that are going to change their signs would have to now follow these sign standards. But yeah, essentially it would be cleaning it up. However, some of the tenants, however long they're going to be there, will not necessarily conform to the sign program.
I have another question. I mean, does it largely depend on, I guess, the location of the tenant as far as whether they have a hanging sign or a wall sign? Is there some places that are of greater visibility than others? I mean, is there a rhyme or a reason to that?
I think the applicant is proposing that each tenant space would be given a projecting sign, and then it would be up to that tenant whether they wanted to add to that with a wall sign.
We're just looking at your map right now of the building, and kind of seeing where the signs are currently placed, so.
So the way I'm interpreting the map, I'm only seeing 2 projected signs. Is that correct, John? The way this is defined? Yeah, number 7 and number 24. Is that because they're perpendicular to the building line, right? So I'm assuming those are the projecting signs, or is this?
So the sign schedule that the applicants provided in the sign program lists the types of signs. It's rather confusing, but some of the tenants have a wall sign, a hanging sign, a door sign, and then ID on the monument sign. So some of the signs,
Okay.
so currently there is a projecting sign for the interior design studio.
Can you give me the number on that?
That's number 7.
Okay.
And then a projecting sign for a Secret Beauty hair, skin, and nails, and that's number 24.
Mm-hmm. And those are the only 2 then?
Those are the only 2 right now. And the applicant's requesting that each tenant space be allowed to have projecting.
Okay. Mr. Warwick, you want to add some more to this?
Referring to the map, sign 7 and 24 are basically shown because they're non-conforming. They're larger than the normal sign blade. So I showed those on this. And I originally didn't show the sign blades on each door because we were under the impression originally that those were exempt as directory signs. And we've agreed that maybe they're not. But they're not shown on this map. So the only 2 are those 2 large ones there that will be grandfathered in, and if the tenant moves or changes, they will come down because they're actually routed signs that are quite large.
And so the idea is eventually you'll have a hanging sign at each entrance, each business.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, small hanging sign at each entrance. Yeah.
So I guess my concern is trying to make, from the public right-of-way, I'm not so concerned about once I'm inside your plaza, looking around and maybe seeing a vinyl sign possibly. But certainly from the street, anything projecting out or hanging in the wall needs to be routed or raised.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And are we on the same page with that then? Is that what's happening, or is it
It's
mixed?
not happening now.
Okay.
None of them project over a sidewalk or over the street, of course. They're all
Okay.
at least 10 feet back, because
Mhm.
that's a setback for that, for VMU.
Okay. Okay.
Right, and I have another question. So, or looking for clarity. All right, so presently, some units may have, sounds like up to 4 signs. We're trying to get this cleaned up. So when a new tenant comes in, if they have the name on, let's say on the glass window, the name on a hanging or a projected sign, the name on a wall sign, and the name on the monument, at that point, do they need to be restricted to 3? And then, how does
So-
that work?
Just to clarify, window signs are exempt as long as they're less than 20 or
Okay.
25% or less than the window area.
Okay.
So we don't issue sign permits for
Okay.
that. Then wall signs, they would be required under this sign
Right.
program, if it's approved,
Mhm.
they would be required with landlord approval
Mhm.
to come to the city for a sign permit for their wall sign.
Okay.
They would already have been given this projecting sign that the landlord will be providing to them, and what they call, I think, a sign board on the monument.
Okay, thank you.
Where'd it go?
If I could just add to, the idea of having 3 signs, staff worked with the applicant to try to address the fact that this is a little bit different than most standard buildings, like they just said, people getting confused. And part of the parameters that the City of Ojai's sign regulations that Heather's provided for you in here really try to identify, when is too much sign and when is, I think she has it under regulations, general provisions, and when there needs to be enough signage so people actually can orientate themselves on the site. So just for clarity, the monument sign is to pull people off the street into the actual location. And then because there's 3 buildings, and if you look at the site plan, you can see they all have all this articulation in the building facade. So you could be standing, what Mr. Ryrick tried to explain to us is you can be standing someplace in that plaza and not see a flat wall sign, because you almost have to be, in some tenant spaces, right in front of the facade to see it. So the blade signs you kind of would see it from different vantage points, and you'd say, oh, there's where I'm going. So that's why he wants both, and that's why they're kept at a minimal size. So not to oversign, but they're actually accomplishing 2 different things, just so that you know, because otherwise staff would have restricted them too. It is always difficult when you have multiple buildings that turn and the facades are all, we like that. We like the different variation for the building, but then it sometimes makes it difficult to orientate yourself. That's why he has a directory, you're here and where everything is. So there's different ways that people are finding themselves on this site, but to only have a wall sign would mean that it's flat and, it's just a little bit different perspective, because of all these curlicues in the buildings. Just want to explain that. We thought that it was justified having more signs because of their uniformity, the size of them, and the fact that they're accomplishing different things. And it's not just a matter of allowing someone to have 3 wall signs, or really advertising product. They're still just advertising the business. So I just thought I'd offer that.
It really sounds like the hanging signs are directional signs, basically.
Well, I think they're trying to, once you're on the premise, they're for pedestrians that are walking, trying to find the right, trying to find the right door to go into.
Yeah. So there needs to be a consistency in the signs and so on.
And by Mr. Wyrick doing this sign program, he's making it easier on the city and the tenants because, once they're conforming, we're out of the picture. We're not charging another sign permit. You know, it's just a really routine thing. It's a one-time regulatory process, and then they go in.
Well, I mean, on, I don't know if it's page 21 or sign 21, would be, I think is a good example of maybe a hanging sign. You know, yeah, number 21, Building 2 Southeast. I mean, I think you might be hard pressed to find that. But then I think I might agree with what Commissioner Foster, I think, was talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're walking down Aliso Street or Signal Street, I mean, I kind of like the low-key nature of the buildings as they are. I mean, I don't know if it's absolutely necessary to have hanging signs facing the public right away. I can really understand inside the courtyard, but around the exterior of the buildings, I don't know if it's absolutely appropriate.
Well, just to clarify, my point of view was, if there is to be a sign adjacent to Signal or Aliso Street coming off the building line, I think that a vinyl sign is a bit substandard. I don't have so much of a problem with it being inside the plaza, because I think Mr. Wyrick has kind of approached it as a hybrid. He's using what he calls a blade, which is wood with some scallop edges, and he's just doing the lettering. So you're not raised, it's not quite as custom. But when you get outside to the outside edge of the building envelope itself, and you're walking by that, the cars are driving by that, I think we want to maintain that that standard of quality, whether it be a projecting sign or a wall hanging sign, as it faces either Aliso or Signal Street.
Yeah, I could see really making a distinction between the internal signs and the
Correct.
outward-facing signs on the street facades. Yeah.
Well, I could go ahead and make a motion.
All right, good luck.
Thank you. I might pause for a moment while I'm saying it. All right, so I make a motion that we adopt PC Resolution number 14-04, approving the comprehensive sign program, S13-35, subject to the findings and conditions of approval, with the exception that the projected signs facing Signal or Aliso be routed and not vinyl.
That's pretty simple.
Yeah, I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion?
So does that mean that does this include the monument signs be routed, or they are already routed? Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the conditions here.
Mm-hmm. Good point, yeah.
All right. Any further discussion? No?
Just to clarify, the existing monument sign is not routed.
But the new one will be on Aliso.
So you might want to add a condition that at the time those blades change in and out of the, we're trying to be.
That's true.
We're trying to be very
Okay.
aware that we don't want to, the new sign program, they have a lot of
Okay.
people vested in there. We don't want them to have cost incurred to them. So we're trying to let them sunset out and make the provisions on the new tenants. So as the new tenants come in and he's putting new blades in, then he could maybe route those too.
That makes sense. Do I need to start over, or can I say, in addition, that the projected signs be changed out as the tenants are sunsetted? Or the monument?
Talking about the monument
No,
sign, right? That's the only place where it's a problem.
Oh, yes, okay, now I understand, yes. Okay,
Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, you're going to second that again?
I'm going to second that again.
Okay.
All right. All right, so as I understand it, we're saying we're complying with the staff conditions except the blades on the existing monument sign will be changed out to routed signs over time as they change. And any projecting signs on the outside of the building will be routed signs. Everybody agree on that? Okay. Could we have a roll call vote on this, please?
Lajowski,
Aye.
Oster,
Yes.
Merck,
Yes.
Nolan.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Warwick, I hope you're happy. I'm looking forward to seeing the signs on there. Thank you. Thank you for
We'll come
coming
over and
in.
find our way.
Yeah. Okay, we will move on then to item 3, which is conditional use permit 14-01 and design review permit 1405
Is it- He needs
for
to,
Topa Mountain Winery, use of the property as a boutique winery, including on-site grape processing and storage and the remodel of existing structures located at 821 West Ojai Avenue.
Chair Merck, I think Vice Chair needs to recuse himself at this time for discussion on this item.
Yes, I recuse myself because I'm the architect of this project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we only have 3 commissioners. Can we still?
No, now I'm sorry, now you do not have a quorum.
Do not have a
And so
quorum.
this item,
All right.
sorry. But he does have to leave
Would
the
you just like
the
the
room while
map?
we discuss this. So, so yes, we knew this was coming when we heard that there is, and it's just by happenstance that the other commissioners are not here. So we ask then, I guess, that you continue this item
All right.
to, yeah, June 4th.
June 4th?
Mhm.
All right. Could we have a motion to that effect? Even though I'm not even sure we could vote on it.
I guess maybe it's an automatic, but
Maybe the staff would have to take care of that for us.
yeah, I've never actually had that happen before. But I guess maybe go ahead and make the motion and do it anyway, just to cover our bases in case it might be null and void, but let's just go ahead and do it so that we're taking care of procedurally what we need to do. And I'm sorry, I don't have an attorney here to consult
You
with,
never know
but
when you're going to need one.
yeah. But so I just say just to do it in case,
you.
maybe it's an automatic continuation, but let's just do it to cover bases.
All right.
All right, well, I'll make a motion that we continue conditional use permit CUP 14-01, excuse me,
Due to the lack of a quorum.
due to lack of quorum, and design review permit DRP 14-05 for use of the property as a boutique winery, including on-site grape processing and storage and the remodel of existing structures located at 821 West Ojai Avenue, to the Planning Commission meeting scheduled for June 4th, 2014.
All right. Mr. Lajowski, would you like to second that?
Yes, I'd second that.
All right. Any discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Lajowski,
Yes.
Merck,
Yes.
Nolan.
Yes.
All right. Yes. Steve, you can come back in. We're done talking about it. Well, that moves us to item 4, which is design review permit DRP 13-17 for a lighting plan to allow Tivoli lights at the Emerald Iguana Inn. Could we hear from staff on this item, please?
Yes, good evening. I would like to indicate that this staff was in contact with the applicants today, and they provided us with a letter indicating that they were requesting a continuation of this item. So I can give the staff report if you'd like, or we could just defer the presentation of the staff report. We're tabling, I should say, not specifically, let me correct myself, continuing the item to a date certain, more like tabling it, and it will be, at such time as it's ready to go before the Planning Commission, it will be noticed again. Because we are going to be working, the applicant has requested to work with the community and city staff to resolve some of the issues that, as you heard tonight during public comment, things that have been coming up in the neighborhood. So I think at this point, the presentation that's in the staff report really is not pertinent. And so, although I'd be willing to give it, but we just request that maybe you open the public hearing and hear from any people that have come to speak on this item tonight and from the applicant, and then consider the applicant's request to table this item.
Okay. And do we have a particular date that we're looking for?
No, we're interested in working with the neighbors and doing some consensus building, and I don't believe that that we know we're a date would, I think, maybe constrain that effort, so we want
Okay.
to, when it's ready to come back, we will notice it again.
All right. Well, I do have 3 speakers cards on this, and here comes a 4th one. So it sounds like what we will do is open the public hearing, take public testimony on this, and then continue the item. Does that make sense? I've never done that before, so I don't.
Well, yes, normally when people have, an item has been noticed and people have arrived to take testimony, you would do that. You don't it's the applicant's request to continue it. You don't have to honor that request. I mean, you could take action if you felt
It's true.
that that's what you wanted to do. And that's why I phrased it that, consider the applicant's request. This isn't staff's request to continue. This is the applicant's,
Okay.
at the bequest of staff. I mean, it was something that we asked them to do. But I would, and normally we would just grant that, but we just ask that you hear testimony first.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, let me start with the applicants. Would you guys like to speak on this at all?
Good evening. I'm Mark Whitman. I would first like to welcome Mr. Lajowski to the commission. It's nice to see a new face, and we'll see you again, I'm sure. But we're requesting a continuance for our Tivoli Light application. It's basically in the spirit of compromise with the community and the neighborhood. We're looking to maybe come up with a reasonable, compromise that we could all live with and bring it back to you, and hopefully avoid, these. I think there's been a lot of negative input on our project, and we're not submitting to that at all. We feel it's uncalled for or not justified. And I think once the facts come to light, that other people will agree with us, and see that the Emerald Iguana is a great asset to the community and to the neighborhood. But we're willing to hear what the neighbors say, and in respect to that, hopefully they hear what we have to say as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you doing that. I think it's a good solution. Well, we do have speakers cards, and the first one is for Bill Warwick.
Thank you, Bill Warwick, 607 North Blanche. I really welcome the request on the part of the applicant, and I think that my comments on this whole matter have consistently been about the due process, and I want to make a couple comments about that because I think they're still relevant for the future review. Again, I'm going to just set the stage that the problem I have with the staff report, the problem I have with the issuance of a building permit back in 2012 is not the particular merits of any issue. I've been very consistent saying it. I'm not taking an issue on any particular matters, but when there's a conditional use permit, the conditional use permit should be where you start. And for example, there's a stipulation in the conditional use permit about lighting. There's a stipulation in the conditional use permit about on-site check-in. There's a stipulation in the conditional use permit on the number of units. If those should be changed, because Planning Commission set those by due process, if they're to be changed, if there's a good reason for them to be changed, then the applicant should come and ask for a CUP change. There should be a hearing on that. For example, a building permit that includes a reception desk on the site plan back in 2012 that was issued by director's exemption, so you, the Planning Commission, didn't even know that that was going on, that building permit had the reception desk in there, even though there's a stipulation about no on-site check-in. That's at least an arguable point that should be discussed openly at Planning Commission. If it should be changed, then change it. But do it by a proper Planning Commission process. And that's really my major point. For example, back in the building permits that have been issued with respect to lights without referencing the stipulation about lighting in the CUP. The staff report doesn't reference the CUP. And just to reread real quickly, the conditional use permit on lighting, it says any proposed lighting shall be shown on the landscape plan and shall be hooded and directed as to reflect light away from adjoining properties. The staff report constantly talks about the lighting ordinance, but a CUP is something in addition to an ordinance. And I think that's the kind of open discussion. I think the Whitmans run a really nice operation, but again, if there's going to be changes to the way that operation occurs, to the in some sort of variance from the CUP, do it as a CUP review. Don't do it through director's exemption permit issuance, or only talking about design review permits without referencing the CUP. That's my major point.
Good. Thank you. Next one is Jim Churchill.
Hi. My name is Jim Churchill. I live at 310 McKee Street. I'm not sure I could say, my point is the same as his. I'm not sure I can say it better, but I'll try to say it slightly differently. I run a small business. I'm a farmer. I know about the costs of rules and regulations, and I have farm labor and food safety stuff that I have to contend with, and I sympathize with the Whitmans. I think they do run pretty sharp operations, generally speaking, and I know that they're just trying to improve and refine their business and make it pay out, and I understand all of that. But when I bought my house on McKee Street, the guy who built it had obtained an occupancy permit without building a garage. I don't know how he did that, but he did. So we bought it, and then we wanted to do some stuff that required a permit, and we had to build a garage because that was a condition. And I'm really saying the same thing that Mr. Wyrick just said. The city goes to great lengths to have complex and detailed regulations. I mean, look what we just did on the sign. And so we should abide by them. That's really what I'm trying to say. My bottom line is that I believe that the CUP trumps city codes, and I think that the conditions, the original conditions, need to be referenced and met before additional changes are granted, and that's what I think that their proposal to meet with the community and talk about this stuff is great, and I will participate.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Churchill. Next is Jane Spiller.
Hi, I'm Jane Spiller, and I live at 202 Pauline Street. And I also welcome the request by the applicant to meet with neighbors and see if we can find some mitigations that might satisfy everyone's needs. I think that would be great. It's very important that they know this is not personal. This is totally, as the other speakers have mentioned, a matter of following the rules of the conditional use permit, which does trump everything else. I don't know how much history the members of the Planning Commission have on this project because it's been going on a long time. And we have new members here who I don't know, and so I wanted to give them some background on it, and it would seem that this might be the appropriate time to do that, if you'll indulge me with that. This was a 11th hour sudden development of the project being tabled, so I did want to give you some background. I intended to ask that this be postponed and a full conditional use permit review be conducted as the neighbors have been requesting. It seems that the Tivoli lights really are only a part of that review that's necessary. I did want to address the lighting on the property and to say that it is not now, nor has it ever complied with the requirements of the conditional use permit. Item number 2 of that permit states, any proposed lighting shall be hooded and directed as to reflect light away from adjoining properties. When I bought my property in 1997, it was next door to 8 cottages. Thereafter, an application was made to the city that proposed extended stay cottages, with guests staying from several weeks to several months, like the historic Pierpont cottages. I regret to say that I believed the owners really intended extended stay cottages. I supported their application. Perhaps with the support of the neighbor most impacted by the project, the city approved the change, with conditions to minimize impact on the neighborhood: 5-day, 4-night stays, off-site check-in at the Blue Iguana, a 9th unit for a live-in on-site manager. These conditions were important. Article 24 of the Ojai Planning and Zoning Code conditional use permit states, the review authority may approve a conditional use permit with conditions only if the proposed use would not impair the integrity and character of the subject zoning district. However, soon the owners applied to drop the conditions of approval. I saw the intention was to operate a hotel. There was such a huge outcry by the neighbors that the owners withdrew that request to drop conditions, but they obtained a reduction to 2-night stays. The neighbors appealed the decision, but lost. For many years, the conditions have been violated. Cottages have been broken up, rooms locked off. Instead of the permitted 8 units, with 1 unit for an on-site manager, the owners have been renting out 13 to 14 units. The noise and dust from traffic, particularly during the check-in and check-out times, is intolerable. Cars grind in and out of the gravel driveway at all hours of the day and night, waking us up. Car doors slam. Guests talk loudly in the parking lot. Lights, not shielded or hooded, keep us awake at night. It was only recently that the 5:30 a.m. early morning bakery delivery wake-up was addressed. Some people say, but it is such a nice hotel, and I agree, it is attractive. I admire the owner's ability. If they had developed the Emerald Iguana on commercially zoned property, Ojai would benefit greatly. But they did not. In 2012, a dumpster arrived and I discovered construction happening next door. I asked the city what was going on and was told that the Emerald Iguana had been given a building permit by director's exemption and was remodeling. I could not believe that the neighbors had not been notified. I could not believe we had not had the opportunity to review the project. The laundry room was extended right next to my property. A bedroom was turned into a lobby with reception desks and areas for commercial sales. New unshielded lights were installed. Now I know that you, the Planning Commission, were not given information about the permit either. The report to the Commission for the Director's exemption, and I want to emphasize this was a previous Community Development Director, references only addition, interior remodel, not visible from the street or adjacent parcels. And that's it. It does not reference the conditional use permit. These huge errors are shocking, to say the least. Now the owners have once again submitted an application to remove all conditions from the operation. That application is incomplete. When I inquired when the city would put this on the agenda for review, I was told the city was not going to schedule this item, that it was voluntary on the owner's part. Voluntary? City staff has been addressing many issues and violations. They have not yet signed off on the building permit. Since the neighbors and the Planning Commission were denied the opportunity to review this project, this provides an opportunity for the city to review the remodeling, the operation, consider the residential neighborhood, look at what measures can be taken to mitigate impact, and enforce the conditional use permit. I respectfully request that you put an item on the future agenda for a full CUP review. At the last City Council meeting, Mayor Strobel requested this very thing, a full CUP compliance review. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Spiller. Appreciate it.
And I would also like to request, since you posted on the city's website a letter from the applicants, that you also post a letter from 24 neighbors of the Emerald Iguana relating to this project.
Thank you. Thank you.
Was that letter signed by 24 neighbors?
I intended you all to have that
I think we got a copy of it at a previous meeting, because I know I've seen it before. Last speaker card is Mr. Ulrich.
William Ulrich, 487 Gridley Road. So that just kind of underscored it. You may have gotten a copy of it, but it didn't go on the website, didn't go in your packet. So that's not due process. That's not processing fairly and equitably. And furthermore, that you folks really didn't know, or did know as a consequence of apparently a meeting with Mr. Clark and Ms. Wald regarding this issue being tabled, instead of it being a function of something that you folks determined, with a full quorum or without, is an egregious and detrimental approach to this body's obligations to the public. If you folks are getting with the staff and the staff is making recommendations that you table something, whether the applicant has submitted a letter or not, that's your decision to do. And them recommending it to you at a meeting in advance of this meeting may or may not be a violation of the Brown Act. Really, from my perspective, I'm not getting very good information from the city attorney on that, because I frankly think everybody's a little biased. It's a manner of managing the city council and you as their appointees. From a practical perspective, however, it lacks equity. It lacks reasonableness and it lacks fairness. And it keeps happening. Week in, month in, year in. The process that this city and this body uses is flawed. And I would submit fatally flawed, because it does not serve neither the intent nor the letter of the ordinances under which we're ostensibly, and you certainly, are ostensibly operating. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ulrich. As long as we have the public hearing open, is there anyone else who wants to speak? Yes, come forward. Just let us know your name and your address. And
my name is Camille Crock, and I live at 714 North Pinata Street. That's my address, but I can see the Emerald Iguana from where I live. We all have a corner together, me and Jane and the Emerald Iguana. And to me, this is just a tempest in a teapot. I don't see any problem with the light she's got now. I don't see anything that's disturbing me at night from where I live. This is just a big deal about nothing. Just continue with whatever she has. It's satisfactory. It's fine. I don't believe that all those people complain about it. I haven't heard anybody complain about it myself. Okay? Thank you.
thank you very much for speaking. Anyone else who would like to speak on this? You'll have another chance in, I don't know, at some point in the future, we will bring this up again. So we need a motion if we're going to table this item to the future. Well,
No, I think you should go ahead and close it
all
because
right, let's move to close the public hearing.
All right, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
All right,
I'll second that.
all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Discussion amongst the commission.
I have a question. Told myself I was going to just, be quiet for a while in these things, but I have a question. It seems to me that there's, correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that there's two different issues. Okay, it seems one is the issue about the lights. Then it seems there's another issue about the potential violations of the conditional use permit. Is that correct, or are they the same issue?
Sure, good.
Well, I think that's the gist of the issue here is that the neighborhood feels that they're all one issue okay? Over time, staff has received a few or numerous complaints from different people within the neighborhood regarding the operation of the emerald guana. And part of our processing these complaints, there were issues regarding the lighting, okay? Staff is attempting to clear up that issue with them, and so we brought it forth as a single issue because that's what we were requested to do through the complaint process. Okay, and I'm just being very guarded about what I say because, as everybody knows, even though the neighbors here have discussed their issues and their complaints, code enforcement is confidential in the city. So there was a reason for this brought forth the way it was to clear up an issue having to do with a specific issue with the lighting, and that's why it was done the way it was. So I think, again, it's the issue that we have before you tonight because there's two different parties that see two different ways. One saw it as a separate issue. The neighborhood sees it as a collective issue. So again, we just think that at this point, we are going to be working with the neighborhood and the Whitmans. We'd like to just have it tabled and move on and really try to work as a group and try to build some consensus and really identify the issues that are at hand and what we can do. That's the reason I'm asking you to close the public hearing, because the application that may come before you the next time we see you may be very different, or it may be the same. We don't know what the process will yield. So at this point, we're just would ask that you move forward with tabling the item.
Okay, does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you, Sherry. Okay, so is this I haven't seen this issue, the letter. Is it the letter regarding the CUP? Okay, again, when something comes in and it's code enforcement and it's complaint driven, it's confidential. An applicant can do what they want to do, or a complainant can do what they want to do with their complaint. The city's obligated to keep that confidential. And so at some point when she hands, I think that it's very difficult to keep all the issues separated, just as you said just now, what's one, what's collective. When people are making a comment about a use permit or a process, it's all public record. And so it's all been kind of, I think, commingled, so to speak, and what's going on. That letter, I think, Jane has offered to people, and that's fine. But it has to do with the CUP, which is an application that is still deemed incomplete with the city processing, and so it was not part of the design review letter. So I think there's a lot of different things at play, and we're trying to respect the process that goes with each one. And so that one wasn't given, but we did receive letters that had to do with this particular one, and they were emailed out to you as we received them, and as we do as standard procedure. So we just like to say that. So that's kind of where we are with some of the issues with this project. And I do appreciate everyone's input, and then how difficult it has been, and the different points of view about how it should just be reviewed either singly or collectively.
So is it staff's recommendation to table it mean essentially do not continue it to a date uncertain?
Right. I think that we will renotice it, and we don't want you to continue it as it is right now. We want to leave the door open. If the process going on with the neighborhood yields it that we end up agreeing to bring, the whole entire CUP back, then we want to leave that open to do that. So it's just kind of an unknown. I don't want to put any hamstrings on the processing that we do with the neighborhood and the Whitmans. So we just ask that you table it, and we'll notice it and give everybody due process again.
I see.
So
when it comes back again, it may be a completely different.
It may be more than just the Tivoli lighting. And
it may be just the Tivoli lighting. It may be an entire lighting plan. It may be addressing other issues. And we don't want to predispose anything. We want to have an open forum with the neighbors and the Whitmans.
Can I ask the Whitmans how is that something that you agree with, or do you have other opinion on that? As far as how you would like to proceed?
It is working.
with the
Yes.
Tivoli lighting?
I think, we want to be good neighbors, and if that's what the neighborhood wants, the city wants, we're very, very happy to do this. We really appreciated the fact that they said that they would come in and sort of moderate, because again, as Mark said, I know that a couple people have some big issues, and I don't know if the entire neighborhood has as big issues as might be perceived. So we really are excited to have the city get involved in that process and really open the doors for all the neighborhood to come and speak and say their mind if they do have issues, if they don't, what their issues might be, if it's just a small portion. I went through and I contacted quite a few people on that list, on the petition, calling them up and spoke to them personally. There was quite a few I couldn't find phone numbers for, but the conversations that I had with many, many people on that list were not really representative of maybe what the letter would imply. And so we really welcome that to become a public forum so that it can really be out there, the good, the bad, the ugly, the beautiful, whatever it is, before everything. Because we do think we run, a really good operation, that it really is quiet and really is tranquil and really is beautiful. And, we don't think that it's the nuisance that some might be implying, but we really want that to be part of a whole public discussion so that everything can be out in the open. We, of course, if you could like the Tivoli lights and we just wanted to approve them, that'd be great to get something off the table. But it was, brought to us today by the city that perhaps, it'd be much better to have it be a bigger issue. So so we're really at whatever you decide. We're very, very happy with, and we're very happy that, as I said, Kathy and Rob have volunteered, so to speak, to be the mediator, moderator, really just take in all considerations.
Thank you.
Well, I think the first step to any resolution of this issue is exactly what is being recommended and what you guys are following through on. So I commend the neighbors, I commend the Whitmans for their willingness to dialogue, because I think that's where any reconciliation or resolution is going to emanate from, and try to find that common ground, and then we can go from there. And so in terms of making a motion, Kathleen?
Yes, sir.
What is the word tabling actually?
Well, they're not withdrawing their
No.
application.
No.
And you can say continue the item indefinitely if that makes you feel more comfortable. I guess each jurisdiction has their own way of handling that. We're just putting it on hold is what we're doing.
Okay, so I'll make a motion regarding design review permit DRP 13-17, that we continue that item to indefinitely at this point in time, waiting to hear from staff for future continuance.
I will second the motion.
All right. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'm wondering how this process, just an overview, how you think it's going to work with staff mediating between them? I mean, is there a clear blueprint for this?
Well, I think that we have heard the issues from the neighborhood side, and we have heard the issues from the business owner side. And the business owner wants some assurities that if they handle the issues that the neighborhood is continuing to bring up, that those things, it's on a slippery slope and they don't just become additional things and additional things. So we kind of know what the issues are on this side, which is, as you heard tonight, dust, noise, lights, and the actual operation of the business. But from the business owner side, it's, I need to have some certainty to operate my business. I need to know that it's not a constant, battle with my neighbors. So we kind of know both sides. How that fleshes out, and how we moderate it, I think it's just a matter of really coming to terms with, what is the perceived issue? Is it for real? Is it just one person? As Julia said, is it, many people that have the same issue? And what would be a compromise to achieve what they want? You want it quieter? Well, how do we do that? So I think it's kind of those kind of things, but I think the first thing is really identifying the issues so they're all inclusive. Because at this point, no one knows all of them, and because, I guess that's all I need to say at that point. So I think that's what we need to do. And again, I don't know that we know an exact blueprint because we need to have an open forum and let people discuss things, and without our constraints on it. That's the whole point of having the neighborhood and having the business owner there. We're certainly going to have some parameters and behavior just like you do here, but we do want people to really feel comfortable and really be able to express what they feel would make it a good relationship between the neighborhood and the business.
And it sounds to me like you may come back to us, having discussed this with the owner and the neighbors, with a completely different staff report and motion for us and so on. Yeah. All right, does that answer your question? Yeah. Any other discussion? All right, could we have a roll call, please?
Lajowski,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Merck,
Yes.
Nolan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, everyone who spoke, and thank you to the Whitmans for being so flexible in this. I really appreciate it, and hope that your discussions go well, and hope that everything gets worked out. I'm glad we had the opportunity to talk about this.
Keep on talking.
Yes. All right, item 5 is the director's report and director actions.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit, so I guess Sherry, is that director's decision, that full-length page there? Well, it looks kind of like we've been busy, huh? So this report before you tonight is the director's decisions from April through the 15th of this month. And I'm open to any questions you have, unless you'd like me just to go over them. But as you can see, let's see, we have some work that's done in the drip line of 4 Coast Live Oaks. And again, Wells Fargo had some work done in a drip line of 1 Coast Live Oak. At 410 West Ojai, we had remove of 1 hazardous Coast Live Oak. Then we have some signs for the Wheel Tennessee Academy. Again, another at the county golf course, remove of 3 hazardous trees, live oak, a pine, and a Monterey pine. At Mark Whitman's office, they pruned a Valley Oak that you might have seen just recently. Again, remove 1 hazardous coast live oak at 108 Pauline Street. And then we finally took action on the AT&T up at 1116 Maricopa Highway. And we tried to let everybody know that was coming down, even though it was a director's exemption. And, obviously, that was vetted through our legal staff regarding how we had to handle that particular wireless installation.
Could you expand on that a little bit, Kathleen? Because it's
Sure.
a really sensitive issue. So it says here, remove and replace 12 antennas. I assume that's on the existing
Right.
pole that's there.
Mhm.
And then there's install 15 remote radio units. Is that on the same pole? Or is
Yes.
So they're
Yeah.
adding things to that.
It's all equipment on the existing monopole or pine pole or whatever they
It's
call
a
it.
eucalyptus tree, I
Oh,
think. It might be a
eucalyptus
pine tree.
pole, okay.
It's hard to tell.
So this is under that. I mean, we've been going through this a lot and getting educated on all the wireless regulations. And this is that federal law that allows them to, come in and replace
They can do anything
equipment.
they want, basically, once they have the pole up there, is what it sounds like.
Well, to modernize equipment with a very generous, flexible standards, correct. So then at 237 Gridley Road, there was repair a second-story deck. At 125 East Ojai, there was built a shed in the VMU zone. Again, at 111 West Topa, there was convert 2 existing windows to 2 doors. That's right up the street right here. And at 410B Tico, there was legalized second unit through the compliance program deed restriction. 411B Drowned, again, legalized second unit through the compliance program deed restriction. And then 916B North Hermosa, deed restriction for new second unit.
So are these second units, these are all part of the amnesty program?
The first
Are
2
these-
were, yes.
That's very
Mhm.
exciting. I think that's the
Yeah, I
first
think
time we've
it's very
seen those.
exciting, yes, uh-huh.
That's the first ones that have come through on that? As far as
Yeah.
7th?
Yeah.
Wow. We might catch up to that housing element one of these days.
So then, completing this list, we did a compliance letter, which is a zoning compliance letter for 710, 712 Ojai Avenue. And then at Chase Bank, we handled at 307 North Signal Street, abandoned property registration. And at 410 Tico Road, there was a second unit address assignment change. So I just want to point out that these are the types of things that a director's exemption are meant to do. They're really housekeeping items. I understand that in the past, there have been some things that were done project-wise, for instance, what you heard tonight from the Emerald Iguana. But I just want to say that this is typical. What I'm doing are things that they're just, for instance, I want to just point out, like the one further down, 111 Topa Topa, convert 2 existing windows to 2 doors. They didn't change anything architectural on that building at all, other than remove windows to put doors in. And I conditioned them that at any time any other changes came regarding landscaping or signs or anything else that they if you're going to anticipate that the doors lead to something else, then that required design review. So, very conscientious about making sure that the things aren't a slippery slope, and that if you look at this list, you can see that, and we are very open, and this list is published, on our website. It's part of the packet, available to the public if they want to see what kind of director's exemptions or the actions we're taking. And Sherry always keeps this list pretty much up to date, week by week. Just want to say, so anytime anybody has questions, they can get the list of what we're doing.
So what is, just a point of clarification, what is an abandoned property registration?
Well, Sherry usually handles that, so she could tell you, but my understanding is that the city of Ojai has a process by where, and this is, I think all cities did this after the bust in 2007, 2008, where you register who is the responsible agent for, am I saying this right, Sherry? For an abandoned property. So that if something goes on and the city needs to contact somebody, hey, windows have been broken in, or do you want to?
Abandoned, basically, they're like bank-owned.
Right.
And so we need to know who to contact if there's a pool that has mosquito. We want to know, because if the owner just moved out, we have nobody to contact. So all it is registering who to contact if there's issues at the site.
So this is a property that somebody just defaulted on their mortgage or something, and they just left?
Some situation like it's not bank-owned, whatever the particular financial issues, we don't know, but it's just the bank being responsible for making sure that we know they're a point of contact.
Yeah, we used to have that problem with what used to be the Texaco station, which is now the mob shop. For years and years, things would happen on that property and no one would know who to call.
Abandoned by the owner. The
Yeah.
abandoned registration means it's defaulted, but that would never defaulted. We always have the owner to contact. It's a little different.
So on the next page, I have the active code enforcement. I'd just like to point out that we have been working with our city attorney to make sure that we're giving as much information to the public as we can on code enforcement, but still maintaining the confidentiality that's required of us. There are very few things in where public records request where you're restricted from giving out information, and active code enforcement cases are such an animal. So if you want to see, we put these in here with as much information as we can give you, and no more than that, I guess I should say. So I've been instructed from the city attorney that I need to add another column on here that just gives you the status of the case. So we'll be doing that, and next time you'll see it that way. So there's a bit more information that we can give out and still be following the public records or section of the code. So we'll be doing that. There'll be an update to that. So I give this as information only, but if you had issues and you wanted to discuss it, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you much. Right? So with that, I'll just move on to the next Planning Commission upcoming meetings.
So,
and
Kathleen,
I'm sorry, what?
How many are too many horses? I noticed this on East Ojai Avenue.
Yeah, that's me
too many
too.
horses over.
Oh, too many horses.
Is there like a
How do you do
number? Or?
Yes, there is. I think it's based on acreage, isn't it, Sherry?
So many horses per acre kind of thing?
And staff worked with them, our code enforcement officers worked with them pretty diligently to get them down to the numbers that they could have. It's just, it's hard with the recession. Some people just can't maintain, take care of horses, and some people generously take them on, to provide a home for them, and then we end up with too many.
Okay, thank you. Just curious.
Would you like me to move on to Planning Commission?
Yes, please do.
Okay, thank you. So we had scheduled for June 4th the landscape ordinance regulations, but I think with the absence of Commissioner Nicklin, yes, thank you. I'm sorry, I started blank. Commissioner Nolan is asking that we give continuance, correct?
Yes.
So are we looking at June 18th or more like July?
Let's go for the July one,
Okay.
just to be on the safe side.
And is everyone going to be here for that July 2nd? I mean, I know that's very close to the holiday, so.
Well, I mean, I guess we could take the June 18th, and then if we had to change it, I mean, I hate to keep changing it, but.
No, I'm fine with putting that. I just wanted,
Okay.
I just was going to check to make sure because, looks like everybody's going to be here. Okay, we'll move it on to that.
Okay.
And,
If that, because Commissioner Nicklin isn't here tonight, I'm not able to, confer with him if that date's going to be okay.
and then we just like to point out, because June 4th would be the meeting that we would be hearing the item that we didn't have a quorum for today, to please let us know. I did know that Isabella was going to be gone on vacation, but of course we didn't know that Nicklin was going to be gone, and I don't know, maybe Sherry knew Chester was going to be gone, but just, it's very important for the applicant for the winery to have a full quorum there, or we'd like at least to us to try for that, so if that's possible. And I'll go over the pending projects down here. The Emerald Iguana, which is their modification to the existing CUP, and as I mentioned before, they're still incomplete on that. Working with the Craftsman Village redesign, California Solar Electric, that is a fairly complex design review permit due to the fact that there's some issues with the land use. They're in, again, they're a commercial business in and around residents, and there's some issues with some compatibility, so we're trying to work that out. The 306 McKee Street variance, do you have an idea when that might be coming? No? Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. And we have a design review going on at 607 North Signal Street. And I guess the CUP and design review for Mountain Vista Manor, addition of a new building to existing board and care facility. I also would like to note that we're going to be bringing a concept review design for you on June 4th from the folks at Paradise. They go by Paradise Development. Artists, yeah. And this will be for, if you know where their offices are, it would be up on Signal, correct?
They're on Aliso, I think.
Oh, it's Aliso, thank you.
They just finished
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
Yeah, that's, right, we just did that.
Okay, so you just did their office.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, they also own not the property on the corner, but the property up the street, what used to be a restaurant and a duplex. It's in
Oh,
the-
okay. That's all part of their same.
Well, they own it. It's
Okay.
three
Starts to make
it's
sense
three,
to me now.
it's 3 parcels, and they're coming before you. They would like to do a live-work townhouse type condominium. It's not really a condominium; it's more a townhouse. But some people get a more visualization from saying condo. And they are considering offering some affordable housing in that, along with the luxury live-work units. And so they would like to come in, and they've been working on this for some time, and working with both local realtors here in the community, trying to find a product that's actually viable, and come and met with staff also. And so I met with them this afternoon, and they're looking to shoot for the June 4th to come in to give you a presentation and get your feedback. They would like to get some good feedback on that. And so they have conceptual landscaping, conceptual elevations, and a concept they would like to propose to you on June 4th.
That sounds fabulous.
They've been working really hard on it. So, and
we had a few years ago, there was a proposal for that property right next to the Art Center. It's now a vacant lot, to put like 8 affordable units on there. And we weren't able to approve it because there's no like provision in state law for doing that without a whole lot of bureaucracy involved. So I'm hoping that they can figure out a way to do this where.
It's always difficult, I think, because you have to it has to pencil out. We don't want units to stay vacant that no one qualifies for. They also have to understand that it's deed restricted for the rest would be our natural lives. I mean, it's a long commitment when you deed restrict or something for affordable. They need to make some choices on, and this is all new, but they need to make some choices, and they'll be looking for your input on that, the type of affordable restrictions they're going to make, whether it's senior restricted of low income or just low income, that type of thing. That's what they're going to be looking for. And you'll see it when it comes. But I think that they've been really trying to be sensitive to the neighborhood and what Ojai wants, and they're really anxious to hear what you folks have to say. And with that, let's see, I'd just like to say we have 2 new director's exemptions that we're working on. One is a variance at 501 Grand Street, which is side setbacks, but I think that's a minor variance, and the issue with, it's a single-family residential area or zone piece of property. They're asking for a reduction in the side setback of like 1 point something feet. It's very minimal. As you know, it requires 12 feet for access. The code specifically says 12 feet for access. Our access minimum one-way drive to a garage is 10 feet. So obviously the 12 feet is a little bit larger than our 10-foot access requirement. So the variance that he's requesting is still, it doesn't go into the 10 feet. They'll still have the 10 feet required for access. They just won't have the 12. And it's along, isn't it a flag lot, I believe? I think it's a flag lot. And so it's very minimal, and it doesn't really affect anything because they're still providing access. So it's just one of those things that it's an exception due to the type of topography and how the lot goes. And then the other one is on 306 Drown Avenue, and that's wave covered parking requirement. And we look pretty diligently at all these ones where people are asking us to waive things. And, this is the one we were talking about today. Oh, no, it's a different one. Okay, so which one is it? Oh, right. Okay. In this one particular case, thank you, Sherry. In this particular case, in order for her to have off-street parking, and actually, she lives over here where the driveways are extremely narrow. And in order to get back there, in order for her to have an actual covered parking, it would be so askew that it would be very difficult unless you're Inspector Gadget and you could pick your car up and move it, if you follow what I'm saying. And so I just want to be very transparent about the types of things that we're doing for director's exemption. So we are exempting the cover because it actually allows a car to go back there and actually use off-street parking that isn't visible from the street by just allowing more mobility than would be there if you had the posts for a carport, if I'm describing that correctly. So you can understand. And with that, I guess that's it, and I'm open to any questions or comments.
Do you know what's happening on the Mallory Way project? We approved that. It actually went to city council and got reapproved, and I ride my bike past there all the time, and I'm like, when are they going to do this project?
They still need to go to city council for their final map.
Ah,
And then
okay, thanks.
Which one's that, Sherry?
Mallory Way for 35 new houses.
Oh, okay.
It's the Becker brothers. I keep waiting for them to connect Eucalyptus Street through to Foothills so I don't have to go all the way down the hill and back up again. Did they really?
They did.
Oh, that was, wow, that's interesting. Thank you, Sharon. And Kathleen, appreciate all the work. I appreciate your transparency as well. I have
Thank
to
you.
say.
I also wanted to comment and thank you for that, too. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Planning Commission Subcommittee reports. Do we have any?
Well, nothing to report on the Landscape Committee, other than what we just mentioned that we going to present later in, it sounds like July. And then on Complete Streets, we've been working wonderfully with our Public Works Director, Greg Grant. He's been getting grants, and things have been happening. I don't know if any of you have noticed the new signage on the bike trail.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, so we're really excited. A lot of good things are happening. And then what we're looking to do, which would be starting next month, we are actually going to be putting together some initial components of how complete streets or circulation will affect neighborhood planning. So we're excited about that. I know it sounds a little vague, but I'll give a little more information as we get into it and start it. And I also like to always remind the public that our meetings are open to the public, and we meet the first Wednesday of the month at 2:30 here at City Hall. So 2:30 to 4:30, first Wednesday of the month. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thanks for all the work you're doing on this subcommittees. Mayor Strobel, it's time for our City Council Liaison Report.
Okay. You had a good meeting tonight. Left me with a lot of questions, but that's okay. Right now, what we're looking at on the council is we're beginning our budget discussions. So you're all invited to join us for budget discussions. We'll have a special workshop the 27th from 6 to 7. And then it'll just depend on how much conversation. So that's where my mind has been, basically on budget discussions. But I wanted to let you know, because you work so hard and do so much for the city, I attended this. Well, let me give you some background. Edward Drummond Libby was from Toledo, Ohio. And he loved Ojai. So he spent summer. He spent part of the year in Toledo, part of the year here in Ojai. And so this morning, there is a Libby Foundation, but it includes the Toledo Museum and just mini structures, the glass museums, and massive. That's just to give you an idea. So every year, 40 ambassadors from the Toledo Museum traveled the United States. They had never been to Ojai. And so we welcomed 40 ambassadors from Toledo, Ohio, this morning at the museum. The other thing they didn't realize, that while we have some Libby memorabilia at the museum, they didn't realize that his legacy is the city itself. And so they had 3 groups that would be doing a walking tour. They were so impressed. Many of them didn't know we existed. I mean, the same as we didn't know they existed. But it has established a rapport between Toledo and Ojai, and so it was just a wonderful thing. It was incredible to see so many people so appreciative. And that's about it for me, unless you have any questions.
Thank you. They had wonderful weather as well.
It was
coming
wonderful.
Today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Strobel. I believe that concludes our session.